Hello students, Jai Hind, very good morning. Welcome back to our e-learning session. Maybe you will be coming offline next week, and this may be the second last lecture, one lecture yet more you will receive. And as you know, we all are continuing biology. In last lecture, if you can remember, we started chapter number 7, that is control and coordination. In this particular chapter, as we discussed in our last lecture, lecture number 1, that we have modified the sequence of the topic. The first topic I explained in lecture number 1, that was the topic of coordination in plants that we understood. Because entirely you all know very well in plants there is complete coordinating system governed only by those hormones which we spoke name at that time phytohormones. Those phytohormones are responsible for all activities of control and coordination in plants that we discussed in our last lecture. Before we continue today and we talk about the nervous system in animal, first we will have just a simple revival of the topic of lecture number 1. We discussed about some phytohormones, those chemicals which are proteinaceous and responsible for control and coordination in plants, if you can remember. At that time, I mentioned the name of 3 hormones, and I particularly mentioned at that time that these 3 hormones, many times this question even appeared in previous year's paper. I mentioned one very important word, that is some of the hormones which promote the growth process in plant are known as growth promoter, if you can remember. 3 hormones can be considered as growth promoter. First hormone, if you can remember, auxin. Second hormone, if you can remember the name, gibberellins. And third hormone, that is cytokinin. 3 hormone, auxin, gibberellin and cytokinin, are actually can be considered growth promoter in plants. Two other name of the two other hormone also I mentioned at that time, if you can remember, abscisic acid and ethylene. These two hormones also can be called growth inhibitors in plant. That means they retard the process of growth in plant at some stage, because after some stage the growth needs to be stunned and stopped in plant. Like in animal also it occurs that after some stage the process of growth, understand, comes to a stop in your body. So those two hormones which I mentioned the name at that time, if you can remember, abscisic acid and ethylene, very important name, you must remember. They are responsible for many process in plant. They are responsible for inhibiting the growth, responsible for ripening of fruits, responsible for wilting of leaves, responsible for weathering of leaves. So they can be, because they stunt the growth process in plant, you can call them growth inhibitor hormones. In our body also there are two ways. Now we are stopping the topic and we continue the topic of coordination in animal. In our body When I am talking of our body, I am talking of all complex living organisms. We have got a very complicated coordinating system, nervous system. In our body, the complete process of control and coordination take place by two factors. We have got a particular nervous system in our body. Not only we have got nervous system in our body, but there are also many hormone secreting glands in our body which secrete those particular type of hormones which are responsible also for so many activities in our body. So when we are talking of animal, we will definitely assume that the total process of control and coordination in animal takes place via two factors. First, that is nervous system. Second, that is hormones, which we call chemical messengers, which are also responsible for so many processes in animal. Just try to understand in today's lecture. We want to understand the structure of nerve cell and how nerve cell play a very important role in process of control and coordination in our body. So first, dear student, I would like to show you nervous system in our body. Before I explain you about, understand, just see that. If you just try to understand, so this is our nervous system, okay? You can see here, dear student, in our nervous system, what you can see, if you verify properly our entire body, so you are observing, suppose you have studied somewhat in early standard, that is CNS, which we can call central nervous system. You all know one thing very well, that our central nervous system, which plays a vital role in control and coordination, is made up of what you can see in cranium box here, that is our brain. Then you see a string like structure, tube like structure coming out of brain, which we call spinal cord. Brain, spinal cord, you can verify. Now what you are seeing from here, suppose you all know that brain is protected in a particular cranium box, because brain is the most delicate part of our body. Similarly, if you just try to imagine this spinal cord actually, which you can consider as posterior extension of our brain, this spinal cord is actually protected in vertebral column, that you all know, dear students, such way the ring like structure which you call vertebral column. So our central nervous system is made up of brain as well as spinal cord and nerves arising from spinal cord, which you can see in diagram. These are all nerves coming out from spinal. You can call them spinal nerves also. Okay. Now try to understand. This is what we are talking of, our central nervous system. Here, dear student, the word are written femoral nerve, pudendal nerve, sciatic nerve, muscular branches, understand, tibial nerve. But actually you have to think this way, that all these nerves which you are able to see in our entire body can come under one word which we call PNS, peripheral nervous system. In our entire body, there is a huge network of these nerves. You understood this? That is called peripheral nervous system. Try to understand. In our entire body, central nervous system, that is consisted by our brain, spinal cord and spinal nerves, and peripheral nervous system, a complete network of all nerve fibers throughout our body. You understood this? Now what happens? Try to understand, dear student. We have got sense organ that you all know. How many sense organ we have that you all know. We try to sense the world by those sense organ which we have got. Eye is our sense organ. Understand? In our eye we have got visual receptors. Nose is our another sense organ which has got olfactory receptors for smell. Similarly, our tongue, if you can imagine, understand, our tongue has got gustatory receptors. In tongues also, remember, all there are presence of nose that you all know. Our tongue has got gustatory receptors. Our ear, you all know, what you are able to see is our external ear, but inside in our inner ear, understand, we have got centers for auditory receptors. Understand, and skin, the last sense organ, understand, which also help you to respond to the external stimulus or external factor. So in all means our brain and spinal cord try to analyze all sense by this sense organ. The first, the stimulus is received by this sense organ. It may be either eye, it may be nose, it may be skin, it may be tongue, or it may be ear. First, the sense are received by this sense organ, then via sense organ electric signal are generated which travel through the sensory nerve and reach to spinal cord. This is the process. Suppose take an example. Suppose this is hot plate. Suppose take an example. If I touch this hot plate, means my skin which has got sensory centers. So the moment I touch this pen, my skin generates those electric signal, and via this sensory nerves it reach to spinal cord. What is the role of spinal cord? It transfers that electric message, electric signal to our brain. What happens in our brain that you all know, you can divide our brain into three parts. We will study in detail in our third lecture, forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Our forebrain mainly have centers for all type of receptor. It has center for sensory, touch reception. It has, in large brain I am talking, it has center for visual reception, center for auditory receptors, center for gustatory receptors, etc. So what happens if you touch any hot plate? The electric signal generated by these nerves reach to spinal cord, and from spinal cord it goes to brain. The brain accordingly interprets this electric signal and send order to spinal cord. Via spinal cord, the same order, understand, travels via motor nerves to this respective organ, and as per the order of the brain, understand, you try to snatch your hand from the hot plate. You understood, right? So actually this is how the flow of information take place in our entire body. Try to understand what I said. Sense organ are present here in tongue, in nose, suppose here in ear, in your skin, understand, as well as tongue also I mentioned, in eye also. So what happens, the process actually, you know, that whenever any sense, any external stimuli are noticed by all these sense organ, they generate the electric signal. This signal, this is the flow you need to understand. Travel in nerves, reach to spinal cord, via spinal cord it reach to brain, brain interprets the information and processes it, creates signal which travel back to spinal cord to nerves to the effector organ. Okay, this is the process you should remember. What is the process I said? Organ to sensory nerves, sensory nerves to spinal cord, spinal cord to brain, back, brain to spinal cord, spinal cord to motor nerves to effector organ. That means the entire arc, if you can remember, dear student, it happens like this. Suppose this is organ, okay? From organ, what is the process? It goes to spinal cord. From spinal cord, it goes to our brain. This is the process. From organ, electric impulse travel through sensory nerves to spinal cord and brain. This is the flow. Organ, understand, this is the flow you need to remember. Organ to spinal cord to brain, then think. See, I am speaking again. Organ to spinal cord to brain, now back. Brain to spinal cord to organ, and then organ, according to the order received by the brain, it works. Now the topic is, in our entire body, you can see a network of nerves. In any organ of our body, there is network of nerves. My question is, how these nerves are made up of? It can be sensory nerve, it can be motor nerves. Understand what are of what these nerve cell are made up of. So try to understand, dear student. Nerve cell are nerve fibers which we are talking. Either we speak nerve fiber or we speak nerves, that is sufficient. Nerves are made up of nerve cell. That is our topic today. We are going to discuss about neurons. Understand? To mention this neuron, or you can also call it nerve cell, neuron. So we are going to understand the structure of neuron today. I actually took this topic first to make you understand that all these nerves, either arising from spinal cord or network of nerves in our entire body, all these nerves are made up of nerve cell. The now we are going to understand the structure of nerve cell. Remember one thing, our main topic is to understand the structure of nerve cell, but before that you should understand that all these nerve fibers in entire our body are made up of nerve cell. If you just think of any one nerve fiber, suppose this, so it is made up of by arrangement of nerve cell. So now we are going to discuss how nerve cell are arranged to make such structure. That is what we are going to study. So our main topic today is to understand the structure of nerve cell. Let us take it now. This is nerve cell. Okay, try to understand. See, if you just try to observe the structure of nerve cell, what you are noticing, so see dear student, this is our nerve cell. Actually the diagram is looking this, but actually diagram is this. Nerve cell is looking like this way. Suppose I just want to draw the structure of nerve cell in this position, it looks like this. These are, I am just showing, understand nerve cell to try to understand. Actually nerve cell is looking like this. Understand, but just now we are trying to understand the structure of nerve cell. What you can see in nerve cell, to see which are the parts of the nerve cell. The first, this part of the nerve cell which you can see here, if I just encircle my pen, this part, this is important part of nerve cell, understand, known as cell body. This is called cell body, or sometime the word utilized for this is cyton also. This is cell body, or you can say cyton. Now try to understand, in the cell body you are able to see nucleus, but what is surrounding this cell body? So you can see these hair-like structures which you can see. So this hair-like structure which you are able to see, understand, they are actually called dendrites. These are dendrites which you can see. Understand? So actually the cell body of the nerve cell is surrounded by these dendrites. Any electric message or electric impulse first enter this dendrite. Try to understand. First enter these dendrites, travel through dendrites, understood, and then reach to cyton or cell body. This is the process. Transfer of electric message in nerve cell. So dendrites receive electric signal, it travel through it, reach to cell body, and now what you can see, you are seeing these are hair like tiny processes surrounding the cell body, but you can see here, dear student, what is that? So this is another a very long process coming out of nerve cell, which you can see, that is known as axon. So what happens? The process is any electric signal will be received by dendrites, travel through dendrites and reach to nucleus, that is cyton cell body. Then from there it goes to the axon. This way it goes on traveling, dear students, this way. Understood? This is the process how it travels. Electric message enters the dendrite, then cyton or cell body, travel through axon, and now what happens here? Suppose the electric signal has come here, means the transfer of electric impulse has taken place. If you just imagine this is one nerve cell, so exactly here there will be another nerve cell. I am going to show in another diagram to you. This is one nerve cell. understand, such many nerve cells are getting arranged one over the another. Suppose this is one nerve cell, then here is another nerve cell, here is another one nerve cell, and this way when nerve cells join with each other, they forms nerves which we call nerve fiber. Actually, when nerve cell get arranged one over the another, a minute space remains between the axon of previous nerve cell and dendrites of the next nerve cell, which we call synapse. But this way, nerve cell get arranged and what we call make nerves. All nerves in our body are made up in the same way. Let us try to understand that when electric signal transfers, understand, from axon, it is surrounded by an insulating cover which we call myelin sheath, which is made up of Schwann cell. These are Schwann cell which are actually controlling the electric signal which is passing through the axon. Understand, and does not allow that electric signal to dissipate in environment. Try to understand. Okay, so this is structure of nerve cell. How it, which are those main organs? Cyton, dendrites, and axon. Any electric message enter dendrites, travel in cell body, then travel in axon, and goes to another nerve cell. This way, the transfer of electric signal take place. How nerve cell are arranged? Let us see that. Okay, suppose here you can see one nerve cell I show you. Try to understand. This is one nerve cell. Okay, up till here, which you can verify. Okay, try to understand this. This is one nerve cell, dendrite, cell body, nucleus, axon. Understand now what happens? Electric signal first is received by this particular dendrites. You can imagine here, electric signal received, traveled through dendrites, then to cell body. I am just rolling my finger to make you understand here. Okay, now it start traveling in this axon. Try to understand it travel in axon, right? And reach here at the end of the nerve cell. Now what happens? Another nerve cell you can see here. Here is the end of the axon of first nerve cell, and these are dendrites of another nerve cell. Actually, you can see, dear student, a minor physiological connection if you notice it. This minor physiological connection between what? End of the axon of first nerve cell and dendrites of another nerve cell. This physiological connection is known as synapse. Okay, so what happens once the electric signal enters in dendrites? Understand, then start traveling in cyton, then in axon. Now here, the end of the axon of first nerve cell creates some electric impulse which jumps and reach to the dendrites of next nerve cell and again travel in cell body, then axon, and then again here another nerve cell. This is axon terminal. Here it sets off electric signal and another nerve cell is here which receive it. Again, an axon terminal set electric signal reach to another cell. So this way, electric signal travel in nerve fiber. You understood this? Okay. This is very important. The synapse. What is that? A physiological connection between terminal of axon of previous nerve cell and dendrites of the next nerve cell. That you should note down. You understood this? So this is how nerve fiber works. Try to understand what I have just explained. How, see, you are able to see this also, axon terminal and neurotransmitter after release. What happens? This is just enlarged the structure of synapse here. See, This is axon terminal shown enlarged here, you can see. And this is enlarged dendrites, if you can see. Now what happens actually, when electric signal from this axon reaches here, and then here some set of chemical reaction are generated so that this electric signal reach to dendrites of another nerve cell. It sets of such chemical reaction that it jumps and enter into axon of another and then travel. This is the way the process of traveling take place in nerves. You understood? Suppose here is one sense organ. This sense organ, suppose muscle, okay, hand, whatever. Now when it touch any hot plate or whatever, so immediately the skin senses it and electric impulse are generated. It travel to dendrites, understand, then to cell body, then to axon, a near synapse, and it makes a set of neurotransmitter that it makes set of electric signal are generated, received by again the dendrites of this cell, travel in cyton, then in axon, and again here the same synapse structure. This way the electric signal travel in entire nerves. You understood that this is the way how electric signal or any message, I must say, transfer from one cell to another cell. Okay, now try to understand one very important thing. What is actually the process, how nerve cell, now you just need to understand this is structure of one nerve cell and this is structure of nerve cells. One nerve cell, then another nerve cell, how they are arranged. This is very important for you to understand. That is the structure of this synapse. This is very important. Okay, and here you need to concentrate how the transfer of electric signal take place from one nerve cell to another nerve cell. This is what you need to understand. Understand? Many times in board exam you are asked about synapse. What is synapse? So that's a very minute physiological connection. Why I am speaking the word physiological connection? Because there is minute gap between the axon terminal of posterior cell and dendrites of the next cell. This minute gap, that's why I am never speaking the word physical connection. I am never speaking this word. Physical connection means you know that both are joined, but I am not talking of physical connection. I am talking of a particular word, physiological connection. Understand? To mention that there is minute gap between axon of posterior cell and next cell, and this minute gap is known as synapse, and from here electric signal sets of such chemical reaction that it jumps to the dendrites of the next cell, and this way the traveling take place. Okay, now see, just try to understand what I explained here in the first one. If you see this diagram again, okay, what I explained, that signal received by sensor, you know that, okay, then it transfer, right, try to understand, then it transfers from these nerves up to the spinal cord. You must be knowing that process, and I am just reviving it again. What happens here? Try to understand. Okay. Okay. Now see. Here message is message is sensed by the sense organ, then it travels in nerves. How it travel in nerves, I just show you by two nerve cell, and then here it goes to the spinal cord. From here it goes to the brain. Let us try to understand by one diagram this particular process. See, try to understand it. This is the process. See, this is effect effector arm, suppose. Try to understand this, okay? Suppose this is effector arm. Here I must show you. Now what happens? Try to understand. This is spinal cord. Actually, the spinal cord is like this, a string like structure, a cord like structure, but here you are seeing the spinal cord from the top view. This is spinal cord actually. Understand? Now what you can see here, dear student, a very important thing. See, just try to understand these two. Neuron is mentioned and connecting relay neuron carrying impulse from sensory to the motor neuron. Now what happens? Try to understand. Take an example. Suppose you touched anything, understand, the pain receptor are already present in your finger, that you all know. Suppose I touch. Try to understand. Suppose one pin is there. I touch with my finger. So my finger has got the sense organ like skin. That skin receives that electric signal, and because the sensory nerves are present, that signal travel in nerves and reach to the spinal cord. Try to understand. From spinal cord it reach to the brain. Brain sends the motor order to spinal cord. From spinal cord it goes to the organ, and according to the order received by the brain, the contraction of muscle take place, and you immediately take your hand. This is the whole process, you can call it. We will discuss it in next lecture, reflex arc. Here I am not still talking of reflex arc, but you try to understand. Impulse from sense organ travels to spinal cord to brain, brain to spinal cord to effector organ. This is the real process. Electric signal received, spinal cord to brain, brain back to spinal cord, then again nerves. These are called sensory nerve and these are called motor nerves. These are for receiving signal and these are for sending order to the organ, and accordingly the organ work. This is the whole process. You should understand the sequence. Sensory organ, via sensory nerves, message transfer to spinal cord. From spinal cord it goes to brain. Brain interprets the information and give order to spinal cord. From spinal cord it goes to organ, and according to the order of the brain, the constriction of muscle fiber take place, and you immediately remove your hand. This is the whole process. Understood? This is how you need to understand. When we discuss about reflex arc, the same topic is again going to be explained to you, that how message is received by spinal cord, which send message to brain. Brain interprets it, that information, then brain send electric impulse back to spinal cord. From spinal cord it goes to, via motor nerves, the electric impulse travel up to the organ, and as per the order by the brain, the constriction of muscle fiber take place, and you remove your hand from here. This is the complete process taking place. You understood this? Okay. So dear student, try to understand the topic which I have explained in today's lecture. Try to understand. The first one, we understood the structure of the nerve cell. Okay, that you all know very well. This is structure of nerve cell. Okay, how the nerve cell are arranged to make nerve fiber. One nerve cell, then another nerve cell. Okay, just try to understand. This is another nerve cell, this way arranged. Then we understood that this is the way the nerve fibers are made in our body. Okay, and then we understood how the transfer of information take place. Sensory organ, understood? You know this very well. Sensory organ to brain, or to spinal cord to brain, brain to spinal cord, back to the organ. This is the complete process. Okay. So dear student, this is how the complete system, nervous system works in our body. Okay. Now, what is the homework for today's lecture? Just try to understand. We have already studied the structure of nerve cell. So, what will be the homework for today's lecture? No doubt, I have already not only explained the structure of nerve cell, but I have also explained how nerve fiber are arranged, what is the actual peripheral nervous system, that also I have explained. But that is just to make you understand why you are studying the structure of the nerve cell. Ultimately, in homework, you have to write only one short note, that is explain the structure of nerve cell or neuron. Understand, this is your homework, dear student. This will be your homework. Okay, what is the homework? Just explain, okay, the structure of nerve cell means neuron in detail. That will be your homework. Rest of the topic I just interconnected to explain you why you are studying the structure of nerve cell, because nerve cell get arranged and make the complete nerve fiber which joins to the spinal cord to the brain, means our entire nervous system, peripheral nervous system, is made up of nerve cell only. You understood this? So, okay, dear student, in today's lecture, I just explain you the topic of structure and function of nerve cell in detail. So, in homework, you will write that. Explain structure and function of nerve cell with neat and clean diagram. Okay, thank you very much.